The Yamaha WR250F is not what you'd think anymore. For starters, it's beautiful. I think probably the best looking enduro bike to come out since the last RMX 450Z. I know that thing wasn't a great bike, but man did it look good. And so does this. It looks balanced front to rear, with an air of savagery, and yet elegance, like I could ride up to the start line and people would just assume I was gonna win. But pulling up outside a fancy hotel, I still wouldn't feel like a twat on it somehow. If I had to have one gripe, it'd be the long exhaust pipe, the bane of a lot of four-strokes looks these days. But it is hard to stay mad at this one because it contains something called a spark arrestor, which is an invention that KTM don't appear to be aware of yet, despite the fact that they sell mostly enduro bikes and you need one to ride an enduro bike pretty much anywhere. While we're on the topic of standard equipment, a bash plate that actually protects the underside of the engine, handguards, or at least handguards if you've got the Australia-New Zealand version of the bike, which of course I do, and therefore that's the one I'll be reviewing today. This version also comes with everything you need to completely de-restrict the engine, a programmable ECU, an on-the-fly map switch, a brake snake, a radiator fan, and a steel-braided front brake line. Bottom line is, if KTM's come ready to race, then this thing's ready to win the World Championship. And I'm not entirely kidding when I say that. I genuinely do think that a World Championship level rider could probably hop on this thing and ride it at a World Championship level right out of the box. You, however, probably can't. And therein lies the problem. Motocross, cross country, enduro, and much more. Join me for the ride of a lifetime. This is not what the WR250F was designed for. It's motocross. These man-made circuits require hard suspension and stiff chassis in order to deal with the rough impacts and big jumps. Enduro bikes like this, however, are set up soft. They're better to deal with rocks and tree roots. When you bring them to a place like this, well, actually, this one handles beautifully. Which is weird.
By all rights, this should be making the little WR wallow around like no tomorrow, causing me to get all out of shape and miss my lines. The braking bumps and jumps will be bottoming out the forks, and these deep ruts should really be a nightmare thanks to the dull enduro engine characteristic.
But the key word there was should. Because in reality, none of these things are happening. You might think that I'm now about to explain some sort of a technical marvel that's made all of this possible. Something along the lines of magnetic suspension or a never-before-seen hybrid electric motor. But no. The reason this enduro bike can hold its own out here on a motocross track is simply because it does actually have hard suspension. The engine is aggressive and powerful. The chassis just rigid. There's no wizardry going on here. It's a magic act. And if you look too closely,
you'll spoil the illusion. Jesus! All those things that were helping me on the motocross track are working against me now. I need plushness and smoothness. But as you can see, all I'm getting is bouncing and snapping.
The thing is though, this technically isn't what the WR250F was designed for either. It's hard enduro. Actual enduro lies somewhere in between the two.
Like I said at the beginning, in this it's world class. There are times where you feel as though you're riding a big mountain bike. The thing can corner that hard, and the wheels just seem to stay glued to the ground no matter what you do. It's as if it's got more leeway than normal bikes between pushing the limit and actually crashing. It is a masterpiece. Or at least, that is until you slow down. You see, I don't always ride like that. I'm not fit enough for one thing, but also sometimes I just want to chill and enjoy the trail. Or I might be riding with a mate who's a bit slower. And it's going to be difficult for me to portray this properly on camera, so you might just have to take my word for it. But the minute I back the pace off like this, the thing becomes pretty miserable to ride. That lightning fast throttle response is constantly trying to throw me off the back now. And then the high compression engine braking grabs and just about puts me over the handlebars. The suspension that was working so well has gone back to full-time bounce mode, and the front end keeps trying to climb up the inside of corners.
But that's not even the worst of it. It stalls the second you even think about dropping down into the bottom end for traction, which is particularly annoying because its big brother, the WR450F, tractors like no tomorrow down low. And that's the way WRs should be. They should be soft, smooth, friendly, easy to ride. They should go 9 million hours between oil changes and look after you when you're feeling tired. This thing though, it's just a race bike, only really concerned with the stopwatch. Now, I don't have a problem with bikes coming as standard in pro configurations, but I do have a problem with this, the WR250F, coming as such, especially when Yamaha already have an off-road 250F that fits the bill even better. Let the fast guys have the YZ250FX, but we trail riders, we want the WR back the way it was, a clear step apart from the closed course competition FX, not this rebadged one with lights. I guess what I'm trying to say is, it's a great bike beyond any shred of doubt, but the title's misleading. I think it should really be called a WR250FX. That being said, it is $3 cheaper than the equivalent KTM, so you could always just have the suspension revalved and then put a heavy flywheel in it, which would solve pretty much all of the issues I've talked about, and you'd still be $1,000 better off. Oh, and if you're at it, get a grippy seat cover. This one's slippery as hell. That's pretty much what I think about it.